Yes.
Yeah, it seems like whenever a caller calls in and disagrees with you guys, you always seem to hang up on them right away.
Right away, all depending on what they disagree about.
Pardon me?
If someone come in here and says, we saying 2 and 2 is 4, they say, no, 2 and 2 is 3, we'll hang up on it right away.
No, you're just...
No, we'll hang up on it right away, because 2 and 2 is 4.
They have a point to prove,
so
though.
it's not a matter of opinion.
And you want a good call.
It's not a matter of opinion. When we're saying something, okay, you can say what you want to say, but have based upon some kind of common sense.
I see.
Okay, say what you want, but have some common sense to it. Don't say a lot of foolishness. It's that way because we want it to be that way. It's not that way because you want it to be that way. It's that way because it's a fact or not a fact.
Would it be a foolish thing to say, lick my ass?
So, you were having sex with a little fella then?
Uh-huh.
Is there anything else you can tell me about him?
No. Like I say, he was funny looking. More than most people, even.
What about the other fella?
He was a little older. You know, he looked like the Marlboro Man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But maybe I'm saying that, you know, because he smoked a lot of Marlboros.
Uh-huh.
You know, like a subconscious type of thing.
Oh, yeah, that can happen.
Yeah.
You have made a lot of money personally, and you've enriched a lot of corporations with advertising by getting on here and spewing lies and conspiracy theories to folks who trust you. And so what I'm asking you to do is to tell your voters right now that Donald Trump lost the election in 2020.
At least you've resolved the lie that is Democrats are now for voter ID. It's not your show, sir, but at least you resolved the idea that Democrats are not for voter ID.
Did Donald Trump lose the election in 2020?
Real quick.
Can you answer the question? Did Donald Trump lose the election in 2020?
I'm answering questions. Don't
really
feel any obligation to answer anything of you. Is this an uncomfortable question for you?
A woman from the city goes to the country and she's at a farm. And she says to the farmer, why doesn't that cow have any horns? He says, ma'am, there are many reasons why a cow don't have horns. Now, some are a hornless breed, like Angus. They're a hornless breed. Some, they get old, we've been milking them, and after a while, they get sensitive to the touch, and they don't like it. And their horns, they can be a little rambunctious. We cut the horns off. It's no pain to the animal. And some, when they're just calves, we don't want them to have horns, and we put a few drops of acid where the horns would form, and there are no horns. But the reason that cow don't have any horns is because it's a horse.
Asshole billionaires are getting all this press now about going to space. And, okay, you know I have a hatred for most quote-unquote media, most reporters at least. The only question any reporter should ask of Elon Musk, of Jeff Bezos, of Richard Branson, the only question that they should ask them, or at least the first question, is, with your money, you could end world hunger. Why don't you?
Yeah.
That's it. I want to know the answer to that question. You couldn't ask that question.
I want to go to space.
To me.
I want to go to space.
If that's the answer, that's the answer. The answer is, I choose not to end. Ending world hunger is something that only a few people, literally a few people, could do. They literally could do it. You couldn't ask the same question of me. You couldn't ask the same question of you.
Nope.
So I don't want to hear anything else about these people until you ask that question. Get them on the record answering that question, because I don't want to. Okay. If that's the case, we as a society should shun them and treat them like pariahs, because that is what they are.
But instead.
Oh no, we should celebrate them. They're fucking cool, man. Did you hear that Elon Musk smoked a doobie with Joe Rogan? He's one of us, man.
I didn't. I usually miss all the important things.
Anyways.
Well, see, now the thing is, though, I know that Richard Branson, for the mere cost of $250,000, pretty soon you'd be able to take a quick little flight on his little spaceship. What could you do with it? What could you think about it? Even $250,000. How many, even if you're going for education, okay, you're going to provide scholarships for people who will work to figure out new, better ways for agriculture. Because that's been one of my things that I thought, if the Army Corps of Engineers in some of these countries where the people are coming and going and having to flee because of climate change and they can't grow anything. So you send the Army Corps of Engineers to help them. You send agronomists, botanists.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Damon, if he can figure out how to do this in space with poop, you've got to have real live people on Earth who can go to these places look at what's around and figure out what can be grown there. How can you make it sustainable?
Do you remember the biosphere?
Yes, I do.
Wasn't that cool?
That was pretty interesting. I think psychologically it was kind of tough on the folks, though.
Really?
And didn't they try a second one, though, also?
Oh, maybe. Biosphere 2.
Mm-hmm.
Was Pauly Shore in that one? I'm thinking of Biodome.
I'm thinking of the actual experiment.
You're saying that Pauly Shore wasn't an experiment?
I'm not even going to comment on that one necessarily.
So there was another CPAC rally. CPAC, that's Confederates planning another coup.
Oh, I like that.
Right? I didn't come up with it. I stole that. Have a nice ring to it. But yeah, they had another one of their little rallies
Aren't they just the cutest?
Well,
she says in a not very sincere way.
This time, I don't know if that's the word to use exactly. They're peculiar, I guess. So they distributed a card with their 7-point plan on it. I thought when I first saw this, I swear I thought it was fake because it's just too fake. I mean, it just looks too fake. Like nobody in their right minds would. But no, it's verified as true. They actually passed this out. And if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to read you the 7-point plan that is now, I guess, the Republican Party's plan, right? I mean, CPAC, don't they kind of represent the Republican Party?
Yes. It's supposed to just kind of be the conservative movement kind of thing. But yeah, them and the Federalist Society.
Well, we've got Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene and those people. They're all part of the CPAC. I think they were all speakers. I think Donald Trump Jr. even was a speaker. Boy, I'm sorry I missed that.
Yeah, I had that thing.
Yeah. So number 1 of the 7-point plan is reveal Achilles' heel. Pull back the curtain on the horror show that is today's, quote, Democrat Party, end quote. Watch Pelosi melt like the Wicked Witch of the West. See the Black Caucus and other key groups flip unexpectedly and watch the tables turn. Now, that's their first point in their 7-point plan. Already, that sounds completely insane, doesn't it? Like it's just some insane person typing this out?
Yes.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't, but number 2 is witness a trusted conservative elected as Speaker of the House, and we know who they're talking about here, and finally reveal suppressed results of existing investigations into election racketeering. I don't think that word means what they think that word means.
I don't think they know what it means.
Number 3 is correct the official record. Very important. Reveal that Trump legitimately won the 2020 election. They don't say how, but that would be number 3.
Mm.
Right.
That's because there is no legitimate how.
Well, that doesn't really stop them.
No.
In any of the other.
No.
Number 4 is the Speaker of the House. Again, that would be Trump. Drafts articles of impeachment for Biden and Harris. Okay, so that's their angle.
There we go.
Trump would impeach them. Now, number 5, here's where they actually mention him. Citizen Donald J. Trump is placed into the line of presidential succession behind the vice president by electing him Speaker of the House. So number 6 is Speaker of the House Donald J. Trump then calls for a vote to impeach, charge, and remove imposters Biden and Harris. And finally, number 7, this is where it all comes together, duly impeach, charge, and remove Biden and Harris, whereby rendering all acts of said imposters while in office null and void and of no effect. Then, duly elected Donald J. Trump resumes his rightful place as U.S. President. Amen. Amen. So, what do you think about that? Oh, and if you haven't, for more information, visit Trump Card. That's a C, not a T. TrumpCard.patriots. So, what do you think about that plan?
How much time do you have?
We've got all night.
Oh, that's all the time you have? Because I've got more problems than that.
Okay.
I'm so tired of the idiocy.
You can't say they don't have a plan. They have a plan.
I'm so sick and tired of the absolute idiocy. It's embarrassing. It is absolutely embarrassing. The more information that comes out about the ridiculous and awful things that he has done and said, even about the little bootlickers, and yet so many of them just keep sucking up and sucking up and sucking up, and there's no reason. The thing is, forget about him, go on, do something. actually accomplish something, and then maybe the people will flip to you.
Well, no, he's still the face of the GOP. He's the face of the Republican Party. They're bowing down to him because he's still their god. So there's nothing to move on from. He's still their guy.
But what I'm saying is if perhaps some of the bootlickers would actually accomplish something of their own, even if they didn't promote it, they could, have others quietly promote it, get some of the people away from Trump, get them paying attention to somebody else. All of these people want to be president. They want more than they're going to get ever if they continue with this charade.
I think you're right that they do want somebody like Josh Hawley. Of course, he does want to be president, and they legitimately think their best shot at that is getting Donald Trump back in there and making it a dictatorship. That's really their best shot. So they're all in on that. And it makes sense if you think about it that way, to me. Then they're acting perfectly logically, if not rationally. I mean, if that's their plan, we know for all kinds of reasons that the GOP wouldn't, in a fair election, the GOP wouldn't stand a chance. We know that.
No.
They know that. So.
Texas Attorney General, who is
the great state of Texas.
Yes, indicted. I believe it's on something. I don't know what charges. Somebody looked that up quickly. Said that if all the people in Harris County and Houston, the folks they don't want to vote, had actually been able to vote, they would not have won. They keep saying the things out loud that you're not supposed to say out loud.
Well, there's been a precedent now. I think they're kind of realizing you can get away with it now. I mean, the whole reason before was that there was shame, and you would be shamed, but there is no shame anymore, is there?
No.
I mean, can Republicans be shamed?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I do not think so.
Texas Attorney General, is that what I'm looking for?
Yes.
Paxton is his name? 3 criminal charges. Oh, this is 2015.
There's something going on.
Is that the same one? Okay, here we go.
It was just on a report today.
Yeah, okay, found it. Felony fraud charges is what he's up for. Oh, no, this is the same thing. It says it's 6 years old. The lawsuit, now nearly 6 years old, has been shackled by procedural delays, blah, blah, blah. What am I looking for now?
Shackled by procedural delays. So it was never handled.
It's been going through the system for 6 years. And I guess slow wheels of justice.
So he's still in trouble. Should be. In a normal world, he would be.
It's a grand jury, right?
I just caught about 10 seconds.
Prosecutors on the case are urging the 9 members of the appeals. Oh, it's going to an appeals court. Okay. A panel of 3 Democratic judges in the First Court of Appeals in Houston allowed the case to return to Paxton's home county on a 2-1 vote because of a technicality.
Of course there was.
Which, I really hate the use of that term because a technicality isn't a technicality. It's the law. Every law is as important as any other law. And when it sort of diminishes people with Cosby, Cosby was released on a technicality. No, he wasn't. That's a law. And that law is there for a reason.
Actually, the reason that he was released is because what's his name, who had been there before when the trial originally was going on,
right?
Set for the civil suit. If you admit to this stuff or you tell about none of what you say will be used in a criminal case. This was just apparently through a conversation these two fellows had. Nothing was written down, anything. So Cosby admits to a bunch of stuff he'd done. The original guy's out. The new guy is in. And they took what he said in the civil case and used it in the trial. So apparently that was, seeing as Cosby and the original guy had a verbal agreement, they said, we got to respect that, got to hold on to that. And so that's why he got out. So it was kind of a technicality.
Well, it's just the implication that, it sounds like Dirty Harry, It sounds like, another punk was released on a technicality. It's time to clean up this town. And it's like, no, it is, I totally understand what you're saying, and I think the prosecutors should have been aware of that, and they weren't. So it wasn't a technicality, it was they made a legal mistake. And it's unfortunate for society that it results in the freeing of a guilty man, but it's important because it also probably results in the freeing of many an innocent man.
Well, it wasn't, I think, seeing as, and I'm certainly not going to use the term gentleman's agreement by any means, but because it was simply an agreement, I don't think there was any true legal basis that anybody should have been able to use. I don't think that should have been allowed. I don't know. Nothing was in writing. There was no legally binding agreement. And can you use a handshake and a wink and a nod in a court of law? Because that's what this was going on, basically, the idea of a handshake.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there must be some legal precedent for the judge to have overturned it, because it wasn't.
No, it was just because these guys made that agreement. The end, if you read what was written about it, that's all it was. This former prosecutor, who was no longer on the case, had told Cosby, if, again, as I said before, you admit to what your wrongdoings, blah, 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 in the civil case, we won't use any of this against you in a criminal case. And then they did.
Mm-hmm. It must be that the gentleman's agreement is considered to be a legal agreement. That must be what the precedent is, right?
There wasn't really precedent, they've said. They're just, you write it down or it doesn't count. But they made it count. There wasn't anything binding. There was no binding agreement. It was a handshake, a wink, and a nod.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of stuck on this one, because if you're Cosby, he admitted to his wrongdoings with the understanding that it wouldn't be held against him. But the next person who came in wasn't part of that agreement. And since there wasn't any paperwork signed, and as every attorney I've listened to, I said, there's paperwork when you do these things. It isn't just kind of, okay, well, yeah, trust me on this one. Nothing's going to happen, because how is that legally binding?
The big news in Texas, though, would probably be the 50 Democrats who left the House to avoid voting on a voter suppression bill.
Yes.
And they have fled to D.C., and the governor of the great state of Texas, the great Greg Abbott, has vowed to have them arrested should they return. I'm not really sure what law he thinks they've broken, but from the people who still shout, lock her up, I suppose it doesn't make any difference, does it?
No. He deputized some group in Texas to go get them, but they have no jurisdiction.
Right.
So it's just...
He wants bounty hunters to go in, basically, right? He wants mercenaries to go in. Didn't they offer a bounty?
Oh, that's news. I haven't heard that one.
Well, I know that Texas has offered a bounty. This is even better. They offered a bounty for anybody. This is in the anti-abortion bill, I think just passed or is waiting to be signed, that anybody who tries to get an abortion, if you as a citizen are aware of someone trying to get an abortion, you can turn that person in and receive a $10,000 reward.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yes. I don't believe it's been signed into law yet, but it is. Yeah, that's in there. That would make anybody, and actually you don't even have to be a resident of the state, so I could do it. If I heard of somebody in the state of Texas, the great state of Texas, who, let's say a woman who planned on getting an abortion.
Okay, yeah, let's make.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be a person. I could get $10,000 for turning her in. So, sounds pretty good. Or I assume even killing her myself, because I'm not sure how that works, dead or alive. I think it's probably.
Well, this is the great state of Texas, isn't it?
Sure is. Sure is.
Why is he? I like Texas.
Well, there's a little bit of voter suppression going on already, isn't there? I mean, isn't that the only reason,
yes.
pretty much, they're considered a red state right now, not a purple state at least?
Again, because that guy admitted, had those others been allowed to vote, or had they not made it so the Republicans wouldn't have won. Now, you've got a Republican admitting to this.
Mm-hmm.
Dang it, I do. I like Texas. Why are they messing it up?
Well, there's two Texases, from what I understand. I mean, there's the good Texas, and then there's the other Texas. I don't know which side of the state is which, but, you know, you got Austin. Austin's great, awesome place. I have friends who live there. And then there's other places. I guess it's like Florida. Well, in a way. I mean, there's a cool side of Florida, and there's a not so cool side there's the meth side of Florida.
Yeah, I've had some fun there also.
Okay, well, not that you can't have fun on the meth side. I mean,
well, no, not there. I've had fun in Florida.
Oh, in Florida. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know which side's which, but
I feel pretty secure when I say I probably wouldn't have been involved in the meth side.
I would guess that too.
Yeah,
I would probably, yeah.
Not one of my things.
One of those fads that just kind of passed you by, right?
It did.
Yeah,
it did.
Meth. How about clicker clackers? Remember clicker clackers?
Oh, I had those.
Yeah. They were basically the fastest way to kill a child. They were
Isn't it just acrylic?
two acrylic balls about the size of pool balls, and maybe a little smaller than pool balls, but they were attached to a string, and you would click them together, and then they would go up, and then they would click, and then they would come back down and click, and of course they would break, or if you were lucky, they would break, and then you wouldn't be able to kill your little brother with them. But if you weren't lucky, yeah, lots of those and jarts. Remember jarts, the lawn darts that were?
Yeah, we had those too.
Yeah,
and they were heavy with a metal tip.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And somebody of course got killed, and that was the end of jarts. One death spoils it for everybody.
Was it just one?
Well.
Then you've got to try, what are you supposed to do? Everyone turn in your lawn dart. No.
I think they were grandfathered in. I think if you had them, you could keep them. They just kind of stopped making them.
Yeah, because we had ours. Ha 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 ha. And we continued playing with them.
But I think with the clicker clackers, as I recall, there was like the Whammo or whatever the company was that actually made the real ones. Then there were knockoff ones too. And the knockoff ones, like the string wouldn't go all the way through the acrylic, so it would like end in the middle of it, which was just a recipe for as soon as you hit that against something, it broke. And
where's the fun in that?
Whether it was your brother's face or wherever it was. Yeah, well.
Your neighbor, your best friend, which in those days would have been Gina, Julie, or Margie. Yeah, look at me, I said names.
Uh-oh.
I didn't say last names, so y'all can try and figure out who they are. But see, that's the thing. I doubt anyone's going to put that much energy into it. We had a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
Singing Tanya Tucker in the back of Gina's dad's truck. And Barry Manilow and oh yeah.
Wow.
We could rock Mandy almost as well as Barry. Delta Dawn. We went to town on that song, I'm telling you.
Oh yes. Yes.
Back in the days when kids would do this crazy thing called play outside. Although kids in our neighborhood do. So but
kids still do that, don't
I
they?
know.
You sound like one of those memes. You sound like one of those. In my day,
I had to. I just had to do it. But there was a street light right in front of one of the girls' houses, and they loved at night. All the bats would come out, and the bats really liked blonde hair.
Okay.
I mean, they'd be dive bombing at my head.
Wow.
Those were good times, though, man. Other than the bats dive bombing at my head.
Bats are really cool. I mean, I don't think it would be as cool to have them dive bombing my head, but I think they're pretty cool.
I'm working on it.
On accepting bats?
Yeah, I'm trying to find their cuteness.
I've seen some videos, like a little baby bat eating a strawberry or something. Just the cutest little thing you'll ever see. Yeah. Well, okay. Maybe not the cutest thing, but what's that Australian animal that I think it starts with a Q? It's got a perpetual grin on its face, and it just looks like looks like it's animated, but it's actually a real animal. It's like a woodchuck with a big Cheshire grin on its face. Not a quahog. That's
on Crikey. It's the Irwins. I've seen it, but I couldn't tell you what it is. But yeah, they really are cute.
Yeah, they're impossibly cute. They look like, I mean, they must literally have no predators, like no natural enemies, because they just like, they're tame. They just like walk up to you and smile. They must just like fear nothing.
They are cute.
It's spelled Quokka. So I'm guessing.
Oh yes.
The quokka.
That sounds
right.
At
the quokka.
Quokka Cabana.
And they are in fact marsupials. If you're keeping score at home, they are in fact marsupials. Yes. So there you go.
But I would love to participate further, but now I've got to sing a little Copacabana.
Of course. Well, you go ahead and take a little Copa break. But the thing about the Democrats leaving Texas, the great state of Texas, to protest a voter suppression bill is that exactly the same thing happened in 2020 with Oregon. Although it was Republican Congress people who fled the state because they were expected to sign a bill addressing climate change.
Wait, when was this?
2020. This, a year ago.
Just last year?
Yeah, but we forget about that. This is outrageous, what the Democrats are doing.
No, they're playing, and they took chartered planes, and they weren't wearing masks, and there was a case of Miller Lite on the plane, a whole case. And now they weren't wearing masks, which I think, as much as they're saying we should mask up, maybe they should have, unless like Pete Ricketts, who lied and said, "Oh, I just take my mask off for photos if the people want me to." Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire, he was filmed the whole time not wearing a mask. This was back during heavy-duty COVID time. Now, if they did, again, just take them off photographs, whatever. But they should have been masked. But, yes, I was working with someone today who watches a particular channel that I do not. So for hours today, I got to listen to that. And it was ridiculous the way that they were talking about the Democrats and not wanting to participate in this travesty. I just wanted to throw up.
And somebody has raised over $400,000, like in a GoFundMe for them already, which I don't really. I mean, so these people probably get paid more than I do.
About $187.5, not counting any other tips and such.
Okay, I don't think we need to fund them. Also, they're doing their job. That's wonderful. They're doing their job. That's all they're doing. They're getting paid for it. So it's just insane. I mean, you know how many people could use the $400,000?
Yeah, a lot of my constituents. It's interesting the things that people decide are the most important. Kind of, take that money to a food bank.
Yeah, I think it's just like psychologically, it's much easier to, let's say this, a dog is rescued from a burning building and they put that on the news. You're going to have 50,000 people offering to adopt that dog. Those are 50,000 people who won't take their asses to the local shelter and get a dog who's going to be put to sleep tomorrow. There's something about like it's a famous dog, or there's more importance to it because it's on the news. I mean, it's nice, I guess, that people care about it, but you're right. There's, come on.
Now, what's going on with Britney Spears? Again, she was in court again today. Particular politicians think that celebrities, be it music, acting, sports, shouldn't get involved in politics, right?
Okay, I've heard that.
Yeah. And now you even got Cancun up there talking about how she makes these millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. She should be allowed to make her own decisions on all these things. What do you know about anything? And they're all of a sudden, Free Britney is, and she does, don't get me wrong, Daddy and his lawyers have made far too much money off of her. But what's Cancun doing getting involved?
Just keeping his name in the press. I mean, do you remember when Bob Dole had an opinion on Britney Spears? That's going back a few years. She did a Pepsi commercial and it caused such outrage among people. Bob Dole had to speak out about that. This is the decline of society, and it's the same shtick. They always do it.
So are you telling me that there's hypocrisy?
I don't think it's hypocrisy at all. And I think that people waste a lot of time with this. Oh, see, if I just point out this hypocrisy here, then the Republicans will see it. No, they don't care. They don't care. It's a point. They like that.
But they are the ones saying that athletes and people in any type of entertainment should not be involved in politics.
Right, except for ex-game show hosts or ex-actors like Reagan, I guess. Well, I would like a list of what professions can comment on politics and which professions can't. I just like to see the breakdown.
So the point is, no one in these areas should be involved in politics, but it's certainly okay for them to all have all kinds of opinions about Britney Spears.
Oh, of course.
Again, I had about 3 hours of that channel today, so it's exhausting.
No logic. I mean, there's no through line. I mean, that's the thing that I think people keep thinking they're going to catch them, and they're going to say, oh, you know what, you're right. And I understand. I'm being a complete hypocrite here. They don't care. They like that.
Well,
and they like that there's no logic. You can simultaneously believe two opposing thoughts, that the enemy is weak and also incredibly strong. I would like to know, like, who are they talking? Celebrity of a certain level or anybody in the movies? Because I've been in movies. Did I sacrifice my right to talk about politics because I appeared in a movie? Okay, I guess that's fair enough. Television too.
Don't use your platform or whatever, because
I wish I'd known, but that's cool.
I'm going to have to find that quote and figure out. Trying to remember who said it. Oh, but now I don't know. Have you heard? Who did I hear today? Marsha Blackburn. I want to say Josh Hawley, and these were all recordings. And Kevin McCarthy, I don't even want to use this word in relationship to completely cherry-picking and misusing quotes from Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
They took out of an entire speech they just went to the being judged on the content of your character, not the color of your skin, as they're talking about how anybody who isn't them, the others, trying to teach our children to hate each other and hate America and blah, 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 and talking about critical race theory, which they still don't even understand.
No, they don't want to understand it. It's just a buzzword. They don't want to understand it. They've latched onto it, and it's useful, and it worked. All their nuts are repeating it.
I watched an interview, listened to an interview with his daughter, and that was quite interesting. How it's very frustrating for her and her siblings to have their father's words taken so far out of context.
Mm-hmm.
And his speeches were so poignant, and now they're just kind of trying to take it and turn his words, almost just like turning it into party favors, being so disrespectful and just dismissive of what his entire message was.
Right. Well, they have to be. I mean, his entire message a lot of his message was about class and not about race. And that is a very dangerous thing to discuss.
Well, a lot of it was about race.
Certainly,
Well,
but
one of
more
it
of
was when I was listening to the daughter, and then it was with Joy Reid on the readout, and they were reading different excerpts and talking about how when you have one group of people starting 300 years before the other, this is a race. He talked about all of it. He went for all of it. Again, I was force-fed about 3 hours of that station today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised I'm still breathing.
Oof. Yeah.
It's not easy.
I couldn't imagine listening to 5 minutes of it, to be honest. I had to pull a clip for the intro for this week. I actually got it from FoxNews.com, and it was just disgusting. It felt dirty.
Faux news.
Yeah.
It's distressing, and that there are people, the person I was with, who just gobbles it right up. You know, again, it was the same conversations that we've had multiple times about truth. I'm not trying to make this person believe what I believe, but base your opinions, your views, off truth, off fact, not just, oh, this person said, and that was, where did they get this information? How is this? I don't know, because they never say, because there is no basis in truth for anything that they're saying. Stop sucking it up, and somebody try and make them tell the truth once. I'm exhausted.
Truth is malleable to them. When Stephen Colbert coined the term truthiness as a sarcastic term, it actually held. It actually became a thing, truthiness. As long as there's a truthiness to it, doesn't matter if it's true.
No.
So,
Well,
it's a shift.
Were you an old Sex and the City watcher?
No, I'm neither a woman nor a gay man, so no.
Charlotte, in one of the episodes, she's the one who always wanted to get married, who believed in true love and blah, blah, blah. And it's a clip that they use quite often. I've been dating since I was 15 years old. I'm exhausted. That is how I feel about these conversations. I've been trying to share a little truth for blah, 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 and I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not trying to sway or change an opinion, but whatever your opinion is, base it on, you can try a little reality. Try a little reality, see how that one sits with you.
Well, that's the thing, is they've created a fictional reality. And so
I know.
You can't just argue a point. You're arguing an entire worldview. It's like arguing a religion. And you're not going to win. You're never going to win anybody over by arguing their religion. So I can't imagine. I mean, I feel very fortunate that I don't have people in my life who believe that. I mean, I'm really very fortunate. I'm sure I do have an extended family, cousins. I'm sure there are cousins out there, but I'm not in really close enough contact to actually have to put up with it. So every now and then I'll encounter a person and we'll have a conversation, but it's pretty rare. So yeah, I'm sorry that you don't have that luxury. Yeah, because it would just make me crazy.
In all honesty, I end up in a really bad mood for a while,
mm-hmm.
and then I just end up angry.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up angry.
Right. I find it impossible to hold my tongue. So I imagine that if I were around people like that, I'd have to learn how to hold my tongue because it wouldn't be very productive.
I think it's very sad that the same conversations have to keep happening. I get this presented, well, what about, and this person starts in on somebody who is far better at what they do than some of the people they believe in. And so here I am again in the same conversation saying, okay, where did you get this information? What did it, blah, 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 blah. And they based it on what? Well, they said, no, there's no truth in that. Here's what actually happened, and here's how, if you just look it up. Yes, and so I will actually look these issues up on real sites and read real interviews with the real people. And then when you go to bring that into the equation, I don't know. I don't want to fight it. Who's fighting? Nobody's trying to fight here. But if you want to have conversations with me about these things, then show up with a little truth. Because I don't have the patience. I don't have the time for all this crap. And it's just crap.
And it's so intertwined with their own being, so that if you insult a fact, which they think is a fact, then you're insulting them.
If you present a fact that you give enough information to back up, to reinforce what you're saying, to back it up, to show that, yes, what you were saying is the truth, then it's huff and puff and try and switch off to something else.
Right.
Don't ever accept, acknowledge in any form that, what I've been saying is wrong.
No, being wrong is a weakness. I mean, it's obviously insane to find anything of value in Trump, really. I mean, from any angle. But if you do, if you're all in with him, then he has shown you that you can literally deny what is right in front of everyone's faces and get away with it. He has shown that, so it would make sense to believe it because, yeah, he's doing it. And I think they have a feeble hope that someday, if they believe hard enough and they support him hard enough, that they'll be the ones who can get away with everything they want. That's their goal, really, is to not be called out on anything. To do whatever they want, not be called out. So,
and
yeah.
Some of them will now use, well, no, I didn't like him as a person. I never said I liked him as a person, but he did a lot of really good things. What? Well, we became energy independent of him. Nope. This, nope. And I said, well, I suppose if you agreed with some of his policies, then yes, you might. But I never thought drilling in the Arctic Refuge was a good idea. I didn't think, the wonderful $1.9 trillion tax break, where 80% of it went to about the top 1%, I don't think that's a good thing. Now, did somewhere in the other 20% people I know benefit? Yeah. But for the most part, it wasn't for us. How is this a good thing? And think about more people than just yourself. You've got to look on a grander scale. He promoted selfishness.
These are people without empathy, so I don't think you can expect them. I mean, I think people without empathy are attracted to people like Trump, who has no empathy also. It's a great excuse. If you really don't give a shit about people, then he's got plenty of reasons why you shouldn't. They're bad. They're all enemies.
I don't think some of these people started that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was some of the people that I know who have become his followers, it was a slow transition.
Mm-hmm.
The indoctrination, much like an indoctrination into any cult, takes time.
Sure.
And you just wonder, at what point could someone maybe have saved them? When did it become too late to save them?
I'm sure there are people who are coming out of the cult like they do other cults, but I don't know if there's a lot of them eventually if Trump dies, well, no, I guess if Trump dies, then the cult will just morph into a real cult because L. Ron Hubbard died. And they'll deny that he died. I think that the thing with L. Ron Hubbard is he didn't die. He ascended the ladder or something.
Yeah.
So he didn't really die. I don't know.
He wore out his meat suit.
He just smells that way.
What? You're like, okay, Ron. Gotcha. Keep swinging for the stars, buddy. Keep swinging for the stars.
They call him LRH. LRH. That's what the upper echelon calls him.
The ones who've paid a lot of money.
If you've seen the batshit crazy video of Tom Cruise was given a Medal of Valor or something. It's totally made up. Totally made up because he was like the biggest sucker. It's like Scientology's biggest sucker Tom Cruise. And they just threw this lavish party with this overproduced video and all that stuff. And yeah, at the end, he and Miscavige salute. There was this huge painting of LRH on the wall, and they both say, "To LRH," and they salute. It's just creepy. Hilarious. Oh. I can see the same thing happening with Trump when he dies.
Becoming a martyr.
Yeah.
In some freakish way.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, even if he just dies of quote-unquote natural causes, they'll just lie and say he died. I mean, that's how a lot of cults start.
He died running into a burning building to save a kitten. That sounds just like him, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, he did, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he volunteer to go into a school shooting unarmed? He did say that he would do that. Oh, yeah. It was early on in his presidency during one of those, the myriad of school shootings that we had. He doesn't like losers. He doesn't like people who try to get out of bad situations, you know.
You mean like going to war?
Like the draft or bankruptcy like 6 times, yeah. You know,
okay, those kinds of things.
Right, he just hates that. So he was saying, you know, he was criticizing people who didn't stop the shooting. That was the real problem with the school shooting. Not that it's way too easy for psychos to get a hold of guns, but it was that somebody didn't stop it. And he said, I would have just ran in there unarmed and stopped that shooting. And, oh, the GOP ladies just swooned at that.
You're so brave. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. That's the one. Yeah. Now, here's and I don't mean this to sound, see, there you go. If you have to preface something, you probably shouldn't say it. But I'm going to say anyway.
Now I'm really eager to hear it. I'm not racist, but.
Yeah, no, with what's happening in Cuba, right? Who did because of the whole socialist lies that the Republican Party was throwing, but who did the Cuban Americans end up voting for more heavily than the other? Who did they choose of the presidential candidates?
I don't even know.
Because of lies about socialism. That's your hint.
The right-wing guy?
Uh-huh. Now, all this is happening. Where is he with all of his solutions on how to fix things? Why isn't he, for all of his little blowhard activities and how only he can solve and fix and save the world, why isn't he saving that country right now?
A lot of the right-wing approach is not to do anything, it's to complain about the other side.
But I'm just talking about the Donald himself. He and his people went in. Remember, he can fix everything. La 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 la. Off key la. So shouldn't he be standing up right now and saying, I'm with you. You supported me. What can I do? Here's what we ought to do. He wants to be seen as such a great leader, and he's actually not. Well, take a minute. Stand up with these people that you lied to get them to support you. Do something.
Well, he doesn't really have the ability to understand what it takes to be a leader of any sort. All he wants is adoration, right? He just wants applause.
Yes, now's his opportunity. And I know he would be terrible, but be somebody, Donnie. Be somebody. Say something. Give these people some guidance. Get out in the streets with them. Protest. Say that you'll go to Cuba and have a conversation and see what you can figure out. Oh, but wait. That would require him to actually lead. Can't do that, sorry. But you know what I'm saying? Are you hearing me? I'm saying it in a very sarcastic way, knowing that he won't because he can't, because he's incapable.
Right. It's not even a consideration for him to do it.
No. His BS factor is so high. You know, and all of his little bootlickers, where are they? Why aren't they up saying, you know what, we had the plan. We got you all here this far. We're here to help you now. No, we're not. Psych.
Well, they're really all just in lockstep with him. I mean, if he says do that, then they'll do that. But there's no movement on the right. Their movement, just like their platform was in the last election, was whatever Trump says. I mean, they're just open about it. So whatever Trump says, if Trump tomorrow, you know, because he's got dementia, decides that it's backwards day, then it's going to be backwards day for those people. Doesn't matter. I really don't have a lot of hope for democracy in this country. I really don't. I mean, obviously, like we said before, 2022 is going to be the key, but the GOP has laid the groundwork, and they're still doing it. They're laying the groundwork for stealing the election, and the only reason they're going to do that is so that they can have the White House in perpetuity, which they almost had. They came so close, and they know what they didn't do right, and now they've undone some of those things. They've changed the laws in some of those states, so they ain't going to happen next time. I'm sorry, I'm cynical. I don't know how else to be. Nobody seems to be doing anything about it except denying that it's happening. I mean, Trump is still as powerful as he was when he was president behind the scene. I mean, he still has half of the country.
There are a lot of, he doesn't have half.
Half of the voters.
There are a lot of people trying to do stuff, but they end up being the people without the power. And then I heard something about Stacey Abrams trying to register dead people to get dead people to vote. Now, we all know that that's a bunch of malarkey, but when you're sitting listening to that, John, that wasn't today. I have to work with this person every day, so. I'm so lucky. There are ways that a lot of these things could be handled differently and better, and I'm very pleased to say in this state we have a very good House candidate, a gentleman who has been in our state office for 2 terms, which then means he's kind of termed out for now, is going to run against Don. Couldn't have a better name for himself. Bacon. And this guy has really strong support. And this state's actually getting better in some of the larger areas about getting rid of some of the baddies. So if we could get rid of Bacon, for one, Fortenberry, we don't know who's going to run against him yet.
Wait, his name is what?
Fortenberry.
Oh, okay. I heard something else.
Yeah, well, that's because in Nebraska, that's what he's called by a lot of people. He finally voted against the commission or for the, they kind of go back and forth. But let's go with Deb Fisher, who didn't think that, was kind of against, didn't vote, actually, for Medal of Honor, voted against the commission, doesn't want to spend all of our money on these silly kinds of things. But yet, somebody put Post-it notes on her office windows and office door. The state had to pay. She filed suit. The state of Nebraska had to pay to go through all of this stuff because that was such a major crime. Post-it notes on her door of her office. I know.
Robert Downey Jr.'s father, who was ironically named Robert Downey Sr., yes, passed away this week. I had the pleasure of spending a couple of hours with him, and we didn't talk about his son. There was a film festival I was doing at my theater, and he was brought in as a guest to do a Q&A for something. And he was there early and nothing to do, so I was just hanging out with him in the lobby. Unfortunately, he is probably always going to be known, the fact that he's the father of Robert Downey Jr. He was a filmmaker in his own right. He was an experimental New York filmmaker in the 60s. He made a film called Putney Swope, which is a cult film about an advertising agency decides to run a black guy for president. It's a pretty cool movie. Anyway, so we just hung out and we were talking. He directed a movie that is notoriously, I don't want to say notoriously bad, but it was a flop, and it's one people don't even talk about. When National Lampoon got in the movie business with Animal House, Mad Magazine also wanted to get into the movie business. So they were trying unsuccessfully for years. They finally got this military camp comedy called Up the Academy. And and for some reason they hired Robert Downey to direct it. Now, he was completely like an avant-garde experimental guy, but whatever. They hired him to do this studio film. And it's notorious because the star of the movie, Ron Liebman, sued to have his name taken off the credits. Now, I'm talking the star of the movie. He's in the movie. He wanted his name taken off the credits. Like, what? You're still in the movie, dude. So really, there wasn't anything much to read about this movie online. I mean, he's never really talked about it, and nobody's ever asked him about it. So, of course, naturally, I went for broke and said, look, I got to ask you this. I hope you don't get offended, but I have one might say an obsession with films that are notorious for one reason or another. So he said, okay, I'll give you one story. One of the producers, he had nothing but trouble on this shoot. He hated being there. They hated him. The producers were constantly dogging him. And so I guess they're shooting in the desert, like in New Mexico. And they're shooting outside on a location. And the producer who's there starts to pick a fight with Downey about whatever it was. And they started getting into an argument, and they got heated, talking loud. And finally the producer says to Downey, oh, yeah, you want to step outside? And Downey looks around and says, we are outside. And then he punches him right in the face, knocks him out. They separated them, of course. No lawsuits. The film eventually, they wrapped it. And Ralph Macchio is in it, Little Ralph Macchio from Karate Kid is he's the lead.
The Outsiders.
Kid. And The Outsiders too. Yeah, it was around the same time. And in fact, Mad Magazine hated it so bad that William Gaines sued them. And there's in the movie, it takes place, as I said, at a military academy, and there's a statue at the entrance of the academy, and it's of Alfred E. Newman, the Mad Magazine mascot, with an army helmet on. And Gaines hated the movie so much, he sued them and he made them remove that from the movie. So like every shot that it was in, they had to zoom in on something else. This is years before CGI, where they could just literally take something out of a frame. They had to like zoom in on a face or something. Eventually, I mean, now it's on Blu-ray. You can see it with Ron Liebman's name in it and with the statue and everything. But I thought that was a pretty
That's
funny
a good story.
Pretty funny story, yeah. We talked for a couple of hours. Didn't mention his son. There was no reason to. And then I do remember when I came home that night, my kids were home, and I said to my daughter, Casey, I said, guess who I met today? Does the name Robert Downey, and I see the eyebrows go up, Senior mean anything to you? And then I see the eyebrows go down.